Evolution of Tornado Footage by Swaggle Studio.
Tornadoes are fascinating. They can be both beautiful and terrifying and tragic all at the same time. They are definitely, as Rusty from Twister says, the wonder of nature. It's the wonder of nature, baby! And what does he mean by that, the wonder of nature? Well, seeing a tornado is kind of like seeing a ghost.
This image.
There's actually that stereotype that if the tornado sirens go off, people actually run to the porch with their camcorder or smartphone rather than go to the basement. Full disclaimer, you should go to the basement if the tornado sirens are going off. Don't film, go to the basement. But who was the first to go on their porch and film a tornado? In fact, who was the first to take a photo? First painting? First mention? These are all things that we are going to discuss in today's video on the evolution of tornado footage. I even got this chart. You know me, I love my charts. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe for more tornado content.
Never seen one like this.
Do here. Mostly, we do other stuff too, but if you like tornadoes, if you're a tornado nerd like me, you should be subscribed. All right, let's get into the video. Phase 1, early history.
That's a good question. Yeah, what's the earliest record?
Videos, what is the oldest mention? Well, before tornadoes were called tornadoes, they were called cyclones, and before they were called cyclones, they were called whirlwinds.
Wait, cyclones and tornado are not different things?
Now, there's actually several mentions of whirlwinds in the Hebrew Bible. None of them are specific enough to be definitively what we call a tornado today. Perhaps the earliest depiction of a tornado comes from the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle, who in 350 BC, from a series of books called Meteorologica, or simply Meteorology, Aristotle describes tornadoes as the spiral which descends to the earth and drags with it the cloud which it cannot shake off. It moves things by its wind in the direction in which it is blowing in a straight line, and whirls round by its circular motion and forcibly snatches up whatever it meets. We're talking about tornadoes here. Straight line, destroys everything in its path. Definitely a tornado. Moving ahead about 400 years, we come across a man by the name of Pliny the Elder, who, by the way, is like the grandfather of encyclopedias. He said in his book, Historia Naturalis, which translates to natural history, that cloud which draweth water to it, as if it were a long pipe.
So
clearly, he's talking about that basic tornado shape, keyword long pipe. Now, this wasn't just a tornado, it was specifically a water spout, which technically isn't a supercell level tornado, but beggars can't be choosers in these early days. Now, let's move ahead about 1400 years to Christopher Columbus, who also saw a water spout during his second voyage in 1495. A lot of the early descriptions of whirlwinds were indeed water spouts, because water spouts are actually pretty common, and obviously water travel was a major part of traveling. And
yeah, you'd think it would have been seen more often.
You saw a lot of water spouts. But what about on the ground, legit Oklahoma level tornado? We're talking supercell tornado. What was the first mention of that? Well, Machiavelli, who lived between 1469 and 1527, described a tornado crossing Tuscany back in 1532.
In Italy.
So that's probably a legit tornado. So we can talk about words and accounts all day long, but let's move on to the first actual depiction of a tornado. An argument can be made for a tapestry, which was part of a larger series of tapestries known as the Conquest of Tunis. This originates way back to 1550. This tapestry features many different weather events, from rain and storms over the Iberian Peninsula. And what do we have here? A great candidate for the first depiction of a tornado.
Looks like it's
little cone rope tornado on the left side of this mountain. Pretty sweet. That's a legit tornado right there. So we have definitive proof that by at least 1550, some people were featuring tornadoes in their artwork. Now, that tapestry was dedicated to weather in general and to the landscapes in general, and it's huge. What was the first depiction of a tornado dedicated directly to that tornado? Well, about 40 years later, we come across a drawing of a tornado that hit the town of Augsburg, Germany. It's even dated as July 2nd, 1586. It was described as a cloud that was on the ground for an hour and a half, and towards the end of its lifespan,
like that would terrify you.
Began to sharpen.
Like you would have no idea what it is.
Went back up into the atmosphere.
And you would be terrified today, but at least you know about it.
Tornado event itself from 500 years ago. That's pretty freaking sweet. Now we're moving on to phase 2. Real images.
Alright.
But before we get to the first photo of a tornado, we gotta talk about some tornado damage photos, because we actually have photos of tornado damage before the actual first photograph of a tornado itself. So I don't know what the specific first tornado damage photo is, but here's a picture of the aftermath of a tornado in 1870 in Iowa. It's not the highest quality of photos, but you can definitely make out some damage. Another early damage photo comes from 1878 in Connecticut, and we have many photos from the 1883 Rochester, Minnesota F5 tornado. Okay, so what's the first photo of a tornado? There's some debate. However, the first tornado photo is indeed the 1826-1884 Garnett, Kansas tornado.
It looks more like smoke coming out of a chimney.
Appears to be of a moderately strength tornado, likely roping out, and it was taken by A. Adams. On the back, the description reads April 25th around 5 p.m. Keep that in mind, April 25th around 5 p.m. However, if you look up oldest tornado photo on the internet, you're going to get a photo of this tornado. This is an F4 tornado near Howard, South Dakota. Many people talk about this being the first tornado photo. However, this tornado occurred on August 28th, 1884. So that's 4 months after the Garnett, Kansas tornado photo. This is a great photo. Obviously, this is a stronger tornado. However, there's no doubt in my mind that the Garnett, Kansas photo is definitely the first tornado photo, assuming the dates are correct. Photos of tornadoes would slowly become more common in the late 19th century. A few examples of early tornado photos would be from July 13th, 1890 in Lake Gervais, Minnesota. Here's another photo of the first tornado photographed in North Dakota in 1895.
Looks
Here's
like a
one in
drill.
Oklahoma from the same year. And the first Iowa tornado I could find was from 1899 in Kingley. This depiction of the 1893 Pomeroy, Iowa tornado might be the first example of a multi-vortex tornado, or perhaps a twin tornado. Now, many of us love to Photoshop tornadoes. I mean, I do it for my thumbnails, but a man going by Mr. Connor may have been the first. He would take this photo of a tornado and he would superimpose it onto different backgrounds. Look at these 4 photographs. They all feature the exact same tornado. However, this tornado is occurring in 4 different scenarios. So he was probably our first tornado Photoshopper. What's the first pretty
some things never change.
photo of a tornado? Well, the first high quality photo that I could find was from June 2nd, 1929 in Hartner, Kansas. Look, you can even see the bottom of the tornado tearing up the ground. Great photo for sure. Well, now it's time to move on to phase 3, video. Kind of like the Howard, South Dakota tornado, there's actually a few misconceptions out there. If you look up oldest tornado video or first tornado video, many people will point to the Corn, Oklahoma tornado in 1951. And here's the footage of that specific tornado. I actually mentioned this as the first tornado video in a previous video of mine. However, the first actual tornado to be filmed comes from the British path, and it appears to be a thin rope tornado in Cuba in 1933. So about 20 years before the Corn, Oklahoma tornado. I will say that the Corn, Oklahoma tornado is way better quality, and it's the first video of an anti-cyclonic tornado, which means it moves the opposite direction of like 99% of other tornadoes. The earliest tornado featured in a film has to go to The Wizard of Oz. It is possible that there was an earlier movie that featured a tornado, however, I could not find one. So if you know of one, be sure to let me know in the comments. But The Wizard of Oz tornado is absolutely amazing. This tornado was put together by head technician Buddy Gillespie. This tornado footage was so good that it was used in several other films. This includes the film High Barbary from 1947, which
Wizard of Oz was insane.
uses the exact same footage from The Wizard of Oz. The first depiction of buildings being torn apart has to go to the 1953 Warner Robins, Georgia tornado. A tornado video featured heavily on this channel. In the Warner Robins video, you can actually see homes being torn off their foundation. This video was way ahead of its time for how close it is to the actual tornado and for the amount of damage it captures. About 5 years later, we come across the first full-length tornado documentary, which features the entire lifespan of a tornado that hit Dallas, Texas on April 2nd, 1957. At least 10 people lost their lives in this specific tornado. Some of the video of the downtown being hit is very high quality. Moving ahead to the first tornado captured during a live broadcast. On April 3rd, 1964, a large F5 tornado struck the city of Wichita Falls, Texas, a city which is kind of a tornado magnet. This tornado took the lives of 7 people and stayed on the ground for 35 minutes. KAUZ TV6 reported on the tornado from the ground, and this was the longest live capture of
tornado stayed, you know?
This footage also
Hours, maybe?
has an early example of a radar hook echo.
At this time, a little reminiscent of a situation we had here, I believe, back in the summer of, was it 1959, when Channel 6 made a television first by putting on the air live a tornado.
Now, finally, we get to the first helicopter footage. I couldn't find the actual video, but
Now
the
that
first
looks crazy.
helicopter footage of a tornado occurred on May 22nd, 1981 by the Ranger 9 helicopter on KWTV in Clinton, Oklahoma. If anyone knows where this footage is, please let me know because I really want to see it. And finally, we are now in Phase 4, the modern era.
I mean, now this is done, right?
As video camcorders became more readily available in the 1980s and 90s,
Yep.
we start to see a lot more tornado footage, especially when it comes to amateur video. So bringing it back to the intro of this video, who really was the first person to go film a tornado rather than go to the basement? Well, sources say that Ted Rubble from Kalamazoo, Michigan, filmed the first amateur video of a tornado with his camcorder on May 13th, 1980. He stepped outside of the camcorder store and turned his camera and filmed the tornado drop from the sky. So this was the first amateur video. Home videos of tornadoes became way more common throughout the 80s and the 90s. I want to mention a few notable examples of classic home tornado videos. Perhaps the most famous is the 1991 Andover McConnell Air Force Base footage. This video is absolutely ridiculous. Seriously, the tornado goes right in front of them. It's just insane. Another classic home video is the 1991 Gulf Lake, Minnesota tornado video. This video features some very famous quotes.
Oh, there goes Bob's boat. Well, I hope not. Whoa!
Hope not. That's a jinx.
Get away from the windows! Tree just blew over. Wow, look at that tree over there. Look at that. Get away from the windows! Get away! Get away! Get away!
My favorite home video might be the 1998 Columbus, Nebraska tornado footage, which is just amazing. I love the quality. It looks scary beyond belief. A great piece of footage.
Yeah, it's actually a storm.
My pants!
Older
Get my
tornado videos
pants.
just kind of have a weird eeriness to them that I really enjoy.
Get my
By the way, links
pants.
for all these videos are in the description. Moving ahead in the evolution of tornado footage, we enter what I call the Discovery Storm Chasers era. This is my childhood right here. This is where we see the birth of celebrity storm chasers, including Reed Timmer, Sean Casey, and Tim Samaras. While filming and learning about tornadoes was the main goal of the Discovery Storm Chasing teams, there was a huge effort towards intercepting a tornado, aka capturing footage from inside a tornado. There were a few methods, one being a satellite dome camera left behind in the path, the other method being riding out the storm inside a tornado intercept vehicle. Sean Casey made great effort in intercepting the storm with his TIV-2, and he was finally successful on May 27th.
That's insane. I don't know. Like, it depends on the strength of the tornado, but like, how do you ever predict if you're, like, I'm guessing the point of whatever we just saw is that it's insanely heavy, so it should not be lifted. But how do you predict what level of strength the tornado has? You're just winging it, hoping that it's not gonna lift you up.
2013, when the TIV-2 filmed the inside of a tornado in Kansas. Reed Timmer was able to film the inside of a tornado in Aurora, Nebraska on June 17th, 2009. There's also a few other early examples. Many have become well known from capturing tornadoes and uploading them to YouTube. Perhaps the best example is Pecos Hank, and I'm sure you've all heard of him. He's like the GOAT tornado YouTuber. There are other examples though. Reed Timmer has a great YouTube presence. Skip Talbot is one that should be mentioned, as well as Ryan Hall, y'all, who does tornado forecasting rather than tornado chasing. Tornado videos are becoming more and more common since people have smartphones and they carry a camera with them everywhere they go. So we're getting a lot more tornado videos from places like Europe and Asia. We've all
At this point, I wonder if there's not a video of someone filming while literally being picked up in a tornado or something. Like, it's bound to happen, right?
also entered the era of drones. Reed Timmer has captured a lot of great tornado footage using a drone, as well as this YouTuber known as More Pie. Still hoping for that tornado drone intercept footage, so keep an eye out for that. Well, there you have it. That's the evolution of the documentation of tornadoes. Be
It's
sure to
always amazing
subscribe.
to
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the
realize the
next
different
video.
niche, you know? Like, there's people out there who absolutely love tornado to this point, you know? Like, whole channel dedicated to tornadoes. There's always so many niche about literally anything you can think of. Yeah. Like, in my head, as someone who's not especially into tornado, I think of it as like, you know, we've already filmed so much of them, like, why would someone still care about trying to get their own footage, which will be the same as everybody else? But, you know, for people really into it, it's probably like, there's much more to it than that. There's much more that I'm not thinking of, you know? So yeah, I respect it. I mean, you might die doing it, but if you only die yourself, I mean, you're doing what you want, so it's fine with me. Very interesting. Here's the link. Good video.